Hello, and thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Mike Tellerino. I'm the CEO and founder of K9 for Veterans. Tonight, we are joined by John Jans, who is a Marine veteran, and we're here with attorney Alexander Michael.
How's it going?
Tonight, we're here to discuss service dog laws. As amazing as this is, the number of places that discriminate against a service dog, it's just insanity at its best. Some of the places that they've been discriminated at, Heinz VA, Department of Motor Vehicles, Bingston Pumpkin Farm, Manchester Court Apartments, Olive Garden, which is a national chain, and Walmart in Crestwood. Now, John, you were actually asked to leave these places.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about how that happened.
There were different circumstances for each of them. The Heinz, I was at Heinz, a security guard said she had to be physically leashed. We use an electric leash instead of a cloth leash because she can't perform her duties with the cloth leash. And that being said, the security guard said she had to be physically leashed, and we had to leave the hospital. We ended up talking to the director of Heinz VA and filed a formal complaint.
And what did they say?
They're so unclear about the laws.
This is a federal facility, and the service dogs are protected by the federal law.
I was prescribed a service dog by a physician there, yes.
Right.
And then, they can't, I can't bring it.
But this
It's crazy.
isn't an isolated
No.
incident. We get calls from veterans routinely that they're asked to leave the VA if they're accompanied by their service dog. Alex, tell me a little bit about the law on this. I mean, how could this, if it's a federal law and they're in a federal building, of all places, shouldn't they understand the rule of law?
You would think, but unfortunately that is apparently not the case. I think it's mostly ignorance of the law, and people don't realize that this is in fact something that is protected by the law, even though they are in a federal building. I think the federal government should probably take steps to educate its employees a little bit better about this issue, because
I mean, it's outrageous that they would ask a veteran
Right.
in a VA hospital with a service dog who has PTSD to leave the building because of their service dog.
they could talk to their own doctors. Their own doctors are the ones prescribing these dogs.
I just find that so bizarre.
It's absurd.
There was another time. They're so unclear about the laws and rules. I got stopped by another security guard at Heinz who said that she wasn't an official service dog because she doesn't have I think it was orange vest. We only allow dogs in here with orange vests.
Orange
I'm
vest.
dead serious. I pulled out. I had a pamphlet that Maggie Crotty, I forget her title at the time, but it was service dog laws, and I showed it to him, and he still, no, that's not our policy here. So we had to
Alex,
take off.
with the discrimination of a service dog in a federal building or any one of those other places that we mentioned, I mean, recourse is what? Sue them?
Sue them. There's no excuse for that kind of behavior.
Especially at the VA.
Absolutely.
I mean, the VA's, they've got a lot of issues. I'll give you that. But to me, asking a veteran to leave with his service dog at a VA, that's got to be the biggest, craziest thing I've ever heard.
What really needs to be done to get some attention about this is, one individual lawsuit here or there isn't going to make a big difference.
Class action?
But a class action is something that could make a big difference. And I think that, efforts should probably be taken to kind of compile a list of people whom this has happened to, and really...
What's the chances of winning a suit like that? Seriously, I mean,
it's not easy. A class action, first you have to get a class certified, and then you have to essentially prove what happened. So the class certification is the hardest part.
which is, in layman terms, is what?
Which basically means you need a judge to basically say, okay, this is a class of people that has been injured by a party in substantially the same manner. They've all been injured in substantially the same manner.
Right.
And that they will be allowed to sue this
Do you
defendant
have to show
for
actual damage by that?
damage. Doesn't have to be monetary per se. It could
Okay.
it could be emotional. It could be physical. So just because there's no scar or no financial loss doesn't mean there are no damages.
So then the only recourse is a lawsuit.
Right. The problem with an individual lawsuit is the damages themselves from an individual defendant might not even justify the filing of the lawsuit.
Exactly.
So, whereas a class action would.
It just amazes me, though, the ignorance of people. You wouldn't turn away a veteran or even a handicapped person with a seeing eye dog. They wouldn't think about asking somebody like that to leave. But because John walks in,
Right.
you can't see a wound, he doesn't seem handicapped, he doesn't seem to have an issue,
Right.
an impairment, physical impairment, and they don't think twice about asking someone like that to leave.
And that's the problem. A lot of the problems with PTSD or other emotional conditions are that people don't necessarily see a problem.
Right.
I get it.
And I got Allie for more than PTSD. She helps with that. But after the explosion in Iraq, my brain got injured in the blast, and she actually performs a number of tasks that without I couldn't function. So she's not just for PTSD, but she's also for the TBI, which neither of them you can see. And I got her back in 2010, I believe. Man, it was crazy back then because I looked like a fine,
Yeah, nothing's wrong.
upstanding member of society and try and walk in with her, and I would just get looked at like I was faking the funk. Like, no, you're just trying to bring
Right.
your dog in here.
Right.
When no, that's not the case. And so for the first 3 or 4 years after I got her, it was almost everywhere that I went. There was the manager would walk over and almost say something, and then, you know what, I'm not going to do this.
Don't you find it embarrassing that
It's-
somebody would confront you
It's-
that you're basically maybe you're faking, it's not
So-
really a service dog, or, I mean, doesn't that play on an emotional stress with you?
The most stressful time that I've had was our apartment complex. We'd lived in this apartment complex for like 2 or 3 years. The management changed over, and once the new management came in, they didn't like that I had Allie, and they tried to evict us. But not for, they said, oh man, I'm trying to think of all the.
That's okay.
Anyway, it ended up being national news, and
You were
it
on
was-
Fox National Network
yes,
with this because of that lawsuit.
still, I mean, this was 4 years ago now,
Is
and
it still?
it's still emotionally draining. Just thinking about it is embarrassing, or it's I don't know. I don't want to say painful, but it sucks. I don't want to be associated, or they said something about the living conditions or standards at our house or at the apartment is why
Right.
what
I remember that.
they officially said.
Yeah.
And we had 5 different news crews come in.
I remember that.
They walked around and they said, that's ridiculous. I don't know what they're talking about, but it was
They just didn't want the dog
right.
there.
They didn't want the dog there, and still. So now I've got national news saying that I'm
What was the outcome of that?
nothing. I honestly don't know. I was working with John Marshall Law School. They were great. The head of my head lawyer got a job at a different place, at a different firm, and kind of just
Fell by the wayside.
yes. So I'm not really sure what happened. They say we owe them like $10,000 or something like that.
The apartment complex?
The apartment complex, because of
For what?
they had to do excessive cleaning or something, whatever.
That's amazing, isn't it?
It was, anyway, so now here I am, you can, look my name up, and on a national level, I'm just a piece of crap that's just a dirty scumbag.
So they slandered your name,
It's-
made you look like some idiot
Right.
on the...
And it hurts, it sucks, but, yeah.
I mean, Alex, a guy like John walks into a place, he gets discriminated against. Can you call the police?
Yes.
And say, hey, you're
That's-
breaking a federal law.
That's what you're supposed
You
to do.
have to let me in.
Absolutely, you should call the police and tell them, here, this is a service
You could
dog.
force them to allow you to go into that establishment.
Correct. Now the thing is here, Olive Garden, although it appears to be a public place, it's still privately owned. So they do reserve the right to refuse service to anyone.
It's a federal-
let me finish.
I just get
Yeah, right.
Calm yourself.
I just get aggravated with
So,
it.
Easy, bud.
but they cannot do so for a federally protected ground. So that would be the same as them saying, well, I'm not, they have every right to serve you because they don't like the face you made at them, to not serve you. But they do not have the right to not serve you because, say, you told them you're this religion, or, you're this ethnicity, or
You walk in
or
with a
you walk
service
in with a
dog.
service dog. It's the same thing. It's the same as refusing you service based on a constitutionally protected ground. It's not a constitutional right, but it's still a federally protected right, and you would not be entitled to be discriminated against for that reason.
Alex, I don't know if you remember, we had a veteran that went into a tattoo parlor.
Yes, I do remember.
And he was asked to leave in no uncertain terms. He was embarrassed. He was, I could not believe what this guy was put through.
Yes.
Okay? And the owner of the establishment told him, hey, look, I own this business. I can do what I want. No one's going to tell me who I have to let in or not. He blamed it on the place being sterile and couldn't have a dog in. Well, I've never seen a tattoo parlor that, you allow a dog in a hospital.
Correct.
But you're going to be upset about a dog coming into a tattoo parlor? So we staged that protest out in front of this guy's store, and he realized that this was going to be a big issue for him. And he called and wanted to see how he could work this out. I said, all we want is a public apology to our veteran. That's all we want. And do some training for your employees so this doesn't happen again. Said no one comes into your establishment, whether they're a veteran or just a citizen off the street with a service animal, that they have to be humiliated in front of other people like that again. And of course, as you know, they agreed to do that. But
That's the biggest problem. Is
ignorance.
that the laws from the last time I looked at them were hard to interpret, or they are, for there's no identification cards, there's no anything to prove that it's a service dog. So somebody.
You don't have to have a vest.
No, you don't-
You don't have
you-
to
you
have
don't-
an
you don't
ID.
have to have any of
You
that.
don't have to have a lanyard
Right.
around your neck
On-
saying that you're a veteran with.
By law, you don't. However, the ignorance, people watch a movie or watch a show and say, okay, that's what a service dog's supposed to look like, that's what it's supposed to do. And if it's...
Hey, Allie.
What are you doing, crazy? No? Allie's hanging out in back. The Olive Garden that we went to in Madison, we'd been there with Allie probably 9 or 10 times prior to that, but it was a new manager who came over and said, you know what, you can't be in here, you gotta leave.
This was the manager.
Yes. So I walked out, and my wife walked in a minute later, and about 5 minutes later, we had a table.
How did they make you feel? Seriously. I mean, for someone to sit there and tell
It's-
you that
It's
you
horrible.
can't come in.
First off, I could probably rob a bank if I've got Allie with me, and nobody would know it was me, because all eyes are on her.
Right.
And once all eyes are on her, all eyes are on me. Okay, what is the dog for? I don't see anything. why doesn't...
Well, that's the
And-
problem.
and- right.
You look completely normal.
Right, so people
For the
go...
most part.
I mean, calm yourself. Yeah, then all eyes are on me all the time, so once something happens, it's like a celebrity, and I use that so loosely, but just as an example, you know, like a celebrity walks into a place, everybody turns and like, oh, hey,
You
look
walk
at that.
in with a service dog, it's the same
Right,
effect.
it's the same effect. So when the manager comes over, or when somebody comes over and says something, and we have to leave, it's like, okay.
Now all the eyes
Now,
are on
right
you.
now everybody's looking like, okay, either he just tried to pull off that was a service dog and it's not,
Right.
or you know something along those lines,
Right.
and it just is.
One of the
It
things
hurts.
One of the things we tell our veterans when they come in for a service dog, a lot of our veterans with PTSD, they're apprehensive about walking into a public building, public
Mm-hmm.
setting. They'll search out the furthest point in the room, the
that's-
closest point to the door. And I tell them, when you walk in with a service dog, you don't feel like you're walking into the room and everybody's staring at you. The focus is on your service dog, which then enables them to walk in and feel better about walking in.
Not just that. One of the things Allie does is she watches my back, and that is so crucial when you're out in a civilian establishment, especially for the guys and ladies returning. That you know we had suicide bombers all the time. There are suicide bombers all the time. I experienced a couple of the aftermath from them over in Iraq, but it's. If somebody's not watching your back, your
They're
adrenaline is
battle buddy.
through the roof, and nothing is happening. You're just hyper vigilant. With her sitting behind me right now, I know she's watching my back. If somebody were to
that's
if somebody
what
were to
she's
walk
doing.
up, she would put herself between us to create a barrier. If we go to the store, she'll pop corners. I mean, it seems silly.
Allie's amazing.
It seems silly, but she's without my wife and Allie, I'd either be dead or in jail.
You know, the first time I met John, we were at an event where we were presenting you with a certificate for free food for the rest of
For- yeah.
Allie's life and stuff. And one of the things he said to me, which just struck a chord with me, is that, you know what, I'd either be dead or in jail without my service dog. And I thought, well, that's a pretty big statement to say, you know, pretty powerful statement. And I've heard that from other veterans as well.
I mean, I can tell you firsthand, even from mentally healthy people, pets make a big difference in
Oh.
people's lives. So for someone who's gone through PTSD and to have a dog that's specifically trained to help you through that, I mean, just imagine how much more. That's like a whole new level of help. So
People don't get it until they've actually been around somebody with a service dog like John
Right.
and Allie.
And
They don't get it.
You don't see it. She's actually she carries meds on her. Because I've got a pinched artery in my brain. If I exercise pretty much at all, I can black out. And there's other fun things that go along with that. But she's actually got meds that help prevent that. She can smell a chemical change that's happening in my body as
But
it's
yet you
happening.
don't need a service dog, right? I mean,
Oh,
that's,
no.
that's just a prop.
Right, no, that's just to get the chicks.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
That's,
Yeah.
but she's done so much for me, and it's heartbreaking that still, you know, I've had her for almost 10 years now. I still have problems. And it's crazy, but I think we need to get the laws or standards on pamphlets and
Education is the
exactly
key.
educate. It needs to be known what the laws are.
Alex, why don't you read that letter? This is a letter.
So-
This is a result of the
So,
Olive Garden.
so after we got kicked out of Olive Garden, my wife posted a message on Facebook, and within a few minutes there were hundreds of people following it and
Right.
comments and everything, and it was it was what it was. But after that
That's the official letter they
Yeah,
sent you.
so Olive Garden saw this message on Facebook, and the corporate sent me this letter.
I think
couple
they had
days
spoken
later.
to your wife at that time, right?
They're
They're referring to a phone call with your
Okay, then
with your wife.
yes.
Okay.
Okay, hey, that's that short-term memory loss, baby. You gotta love it.
Sometimes it comes in handy.
Oh, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, at least they took responsibility and admitted they did wrong.
Right.
But I mean, I'd like to see something a little more here to,
Right.
for them to take steps to educate their employees and nationwide, ideally to.
Shouldn't there be some kind of law that if you're in a public establishment and you own it, you have managers, something,
Right.
that you have to put your
You've got the
people
OSHA.
through?
got-
Yeah, right, you
you
have
got
to
the OSHA
conform to
stuff on the
OSHA
walls.
regulations and
They have to be somewhere.
sanitation
Right.
and, I mean, what about requiring these people to understand service dog laws? I mean, because it's a pretty common practice today that veterans and non-veterans are walking into facilities with the service dog. But the ignorance is unbelievable about that law.
I agree. The ignorance is unbelievable, and steps need to be taken to educate the general public, because
So where do you start? What's the first thing you do?
honestly, the best way to do it is through media attention. That's probably the best way to start.
Alex, today we were at the State of Illinois building.
Yes.
We had a press conference for the PTSD awareness license plate. The purpose of that plate was to raise awareness of PTSD, so people can open up and talk about it and understand it and become aware of it. So I think that's a great step.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing because the DMV is one of the places I got kicked out of. And in Midlothian, they said I couldn't have her in there in the DMV initially, and I told them she was a service dog, and they said, "Well, if you have a service dog, you must be on meds. What are you here for today?" "I'm trying to renew my license." "Well, you need a waiver from your doctor to renew your license, so there's nothing we can do for you."
Because you told me you were on meds,
No, I didn't even tell them that I was on meds. They just said, "Are you on meds?"
and you said yes.
Yes. And
So because you were on
Right.
meds, they told you you had to get a
Right.
letter from your
They-
doctor
they said
to
it's-
renew your license.
and it was just heartbreaking. I went home. I was in tears when I was telling my wife about it because it was the first time. Usually she was with me quite a bit and had experienced the fun with me. This was the first time it had happened by myself, and it was just heartbreaking.
Out of all these places that we've just talked about that asked you to leave because of your service dog, I think I'm not a fan of the VA. I'm a veteran, and I am not a fan of the VA. But I think what really sets me off is that they prescribed the service dog for John.
That's what really
how-
boggles my mind.
I'm telling you, I just cannot believe the VA's attitude towards that. When they prescribe the service dog,
what?
and he goes to the VA,
I don't wanna-
and they ask him to leave.
I don't want to put that on the whole VA though, because this was a few security guards or the police. When we spoke with the head of the hospital to file the complaint, they were either doing damage control,
Right.
or something, but they seemed to genuinely care. It was just the security guards had I talked to 4 of them, and there were 4 different answers for what was
There's
mandatory.
no excuse for what they
Right.
did. None.
Right.
I don't care
I'm just saying
how you look at it. There's just no excuse for it.
they don't. There's 4 different individuals in the same place that have 4 different answers for the
Right.
same question. Well,
And all they're trying to do is pacify you.
and it's I just I
Alex,
don't
what would
understand
you
it.
like to see happen? What would you like to see change about this? How would you make a change in this? I mean, starting with the VA, who's supposed to understand what these service dogs represent and who they're representing.
Well, I mean, I think that there may be a solution. I mean, and this is just me spitballing, but business licenses are handed out to businesses. Why isn't discrimination, or why aren't discrimination courses
Right.
a
You just
prerequisite
said that,
to
yeah.
getting a business license? So, and part of that discrimination course could be service dogs.
I don't know anybody who would want to go into an establishment and be embarrassed and asked to leave because they walk in. It's like walking in with a neon sign.
All
Hey,
right.
look at me. I have a service dog. That's hard enough to do that.
Right.
That's really hard enough to walk into a business with a service dog with a vest that says PTSD. Now you got a neon sign. But now to have somebody sit there and humiliate you
Right.
because you are taking
Right.
that first step of getting better by having a service dog, I just don't get it.
So some of the
And I hope I never do.
worst medical conditions to deal with are not physical. They're mental. They're emotional. A lot of times, I've talked to people who've lost limbs. They tell you
Yeah.
it's not the loss of the limb that gets them. It's the emotional trauma that follows. Living life without it and feeling sorry for yourself, and then going out into public and having people look at you.
Right.
And
That's hard enough.
Right. That's what's
But then when
that's
you gotta
hard
be
enough.
embarrassed?
Right.
Okay, I just got the 5-minute warning. Alex, let our viewers know if they run into this issue, whether they're a veteran or just have a service dog for whatever reason, how they can contact you and how you can help them.
Well, my name's Alexander Michael. My office is Michael Diettinger and Associates. We're located out in Palos Heights, Illinois. Our phone number is 708-923-0368. Again, that's 708-923-0368. And if anyone has any issues relating to this or anything else, even if it's, something like John was talking about with regards to being kicked out of your apartment, something like that, getting kicked out of a public place, you can give us a call. We'll be more than happy to tell you, what we can do to help you out.
John, I want to thank you for coming. I know coming here and telling us your story isn't easy. Nobody wants to sit here and say, I was asked to leave here or was kicked out of there or whatever. So, but it helps to get the word out
Right.
to other veterans that they're not alone, that this is a real common practice. And it needs to be stopped. It really does. And should stop with the VA. Okay?
Should.
So I want to thank you for coming on board.
Thank you for having me.
K9 for Veterans in the very near future is going to be working on creating a service dog law for Illinois to stop, number one, fake service dogs. They're too prevalent in Illinois.
At the Olive Garden, they said there was a woman that was there 2 days prior that just put their dog on the table and let her eat the noodles. She said it was a service dog.
Well, see, that's
I'm sorry.
that's the problem.
Exactly.
That's
So,
the issue.
I'm sorry to jump in with that, but
No,
we got to
but
wrap it up.
That's the issue, though. Anyway, my name is Mike Tellerino, CEO of K9 for Veterans. Alexander Michael, attorney at law. John Jans, veteran Marine. John, God bless you. Thank you for your service. Alex, thank you
Thank
for
you
being
for
here
having us.
tonight to answer these questions. And
My
again,
pleasure.
if you have any questions, feel free to call Alex. That's what
Alex
he's
is
for.
awesome. I personally utilized his services, and he is phenomenal.
Alex is also a director of K9 for Veterans, and we were so honored to have him on our board. He's done so much
Thank
to
you.
help us.
Thank you.
He's an amazing guy. So again, thank both of you. And I'm sure we're going to have this discussion again, which is really sad.
Unfortunately.